Hi everyone, thank you for listening. My name is Chloe and I'm looking forward to sharing some bits about me and what I have been writing about for my internship with BizGs. I am a final year international relations student at King's College London, coming from a British-French background, and I grew up in the United States. I've got a keen interest in how historical tensions intersect with contemporary political challenges, and today we'll be diving into a topic I find very interesting: how Brexit has reignited identity politics and created new fault lines in Northern Ireland's post-conflict landscape. But before we start, a little bit about why I applied to this internship. And I applied to this internship with BizGs as it has a focus on post-conflict studies with a humanistic perspective, particularly on those dealing with regions affected by long-standing political issues. I was really eager to see how financial services are enacting meaningful change in these post-conflict communities from more of a public service perspective than the private sector, which is where my internship was this summer. So why this topic? Why Northern Ireland and why Brexit? Personally, this topic resonates with me because it highlights the enduring challenges of reconciliation after decades of conflict. My grandfather was stationed in Northern Ireland during the Troubles themselves, with my dad spending a significant portion of his early life witnessing the conflict firsthand. I haven't had much time to research this personal interest, so I felt like this human first perspective article in the wake of Brexit would be particularly relevant and interesting for me to write about. Another important point is that my academic journey has brought me closer to understanding how peace agreements like the Good Friday Agreement don't always resolve underlying tensions, and Brexit has exposed that. Having written on this, I wanted to highlight how historical divides in Northern Ireland are being reshaped by these contemporary political changes. Before diving into how Brexit has impacted Northern Ireland, it's essential to first understand the historical conflict that laid the groundwork for today's tensions. So the conflict known as the Troubles spanned from the late 1960s to the late 1990s. At its core, this was a struggle between two groups, two communities, the Protestant Unionists who wanted Northern Ireland to stay part of the United Kingdom, and the Catholic Nationalists who sought unification with the Republic of Ireland. And it wasn't just about politics, but also deeply about identity, whether you saw yourself as British, Irish, or something in between. And as someone who bridges three different nationalities, that's something that's very, very interesting and personal to me. This led to decades of sectarian violence, civil unrest, and a heavy British military presence in Northern Ireland. The violence formally ended in 1998 with the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, which was a landmark peace accord, and this agreement created a power-sharing government where unionists and nationalists would govern together, and it acknowledged the right of the Northern Irish people to identify as British, Irish, or both. And crucially, it also helped remove the hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, which helped ease tensions by allowing free movement and trade. But while the Good Friday Agreement brought peace, it didn't solve everything, and it left questions of identity and sovereignty unresolved, which is what we're going to get into today. So that brings us to today's discussion, which is how Brexit has created new fault lines in Northern Ireland's delicate post-conflict landscape, but how these are really just re-exposing those historical tensions from decades ago. So let's dive deeper. My article highlights three main areas where Brexit has created new fault lines: the border, identity politics, and economic concerns. First, the border issue is one of the most sensitive challenges. Before Brexit, the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland was open, which was crucial to maintaining peace. Brexit threatened to bring back a hard border as the United Kingdom would no longer be in the EU, but Ireland would be. And this raised fears of reigniting old tensions. The Northern Ireland Protocol, which keeps Northern Ireland aligned with EU rules, avoided this, but angered unionists who see it as separating them from the UK and threatening their British identity. And this Northern Ireland Protocol was a required part of the British withdrawal from the EU. Next, identity politics have been greatly reignited. Brexit reopened the question of what it means to be British or Irish in Northern Ireland. Unionists feel their connection to the UK is weakening, while nationalists see Brexit as a chance to strengthen ties with Ireland, and these visions have led to a lot of political deadlock and protests, undoing several years of reconciliation efforts. Finally, economic concerns have added pressure. While some see Brexit as an opportunity for new trade relationships, others fear it will destabilize industries, especially those reliant on cross-border trade. And the uncertainty over regulations has created anxiety over jobs and economic security, risking further strain on Northern Ireland's fragile peace. And these challenges are not just technical or political. I think what's really important about them is they cut to the heart of what it means to be Northern Irish, its relationship with the UK and Ireland respectively, and its economic future. And I think my article tries to make it clear that Brexit has not just disrupted political agreements, it's reopened deep-seated divisions and reignited debates that many thought were in the past. Going on to a little bit more about why I think this topic is so important, when Brexit was first announced, it wasn't immediately clear how it would affect Northern Ireland, but as we now know, it's reopened old wounds that have never fully healed. I think this topic also demonstrates that peace building is not a one-time achievement. It's an ongoing process that can be easily disrupted if the root causes of conflict aren't fully addressed. And the case of Northern Ireland shows us that political decisions like Brexit don't exist in isolation. They interact with historical context in ways that can reignite existing tensions and existing issues in these regions. And I also find it crucial that we acknowledge how different communities, unionists and nationalists, perceive these changes and the impact on everyday lives in Northern Ireland. So what do I hope that you take away from this discussion? The 3 key takeaways. 1, identity and borders are interconnected. Brexit has shown us that borders are not just political lines on the map. In Northern Ireland, the border is deeply tied to questions of identity and belonging, and the debate over the Northern Ireland Protocol reveals the emotional weight that borders carry for those who live in their consequences. Number 2, I would say that history still shapes the present. History very much informs the present. The legacy of the Troubles and the centuries of conflict between Britain and Ireland, going back to the very first Anglo-Saxon invasion, continue to influence the region's political landscape today. And the Good Friday Agreement was an absolute landmark step towards peace, but Brexit shows that unresolved historical issues can always resurface if not addressed properly. And finally, peace is fragile. Peace in post-conflict societies like Northern Ireland is fragile and must be actively maintained. Political decisions like Brexit can disrupt the delicate balance that communities have worked hard to achieve, which is why it is crucial to approach these situations with sensitivity and an understanding of the region's complex history. You can draw on different institutions and political mechanisms to try and improve these situations. But thank you for listening, and I hope today's discussion has given you a better understanding of the complexities facing Northern Ireland in the wake of Brexit. It's a topic I find really interesting, and I think a lot of people also typically don't see Northern Ireland as traditionally post-conflict as it's in the West. So I think it's one that is definitely worth talking about. So thank you very much, and have a great one.